We are back on the ground with another Baldur's Gate 3 ranking video. Listen closely, my acolytes, because I'm no charlatan or folk hero, but simply an entertainer. I've been haunted by this video idea for a while, and while it's a bit outlandish or maybe even noble, I'm here to soldier on with some sage advice. To ignore it would be criminal, as I know you are urging for me to get on with it. Something clever, guild artisan. That's right, it's the backgrounds of Baldur's Gate 3 ranked from worst to best, where I consider role-playing potential, the given skills of each background, and how often those skills may come into play, as well as the inspiration opportunities and points you can gain from the background. Honestly though, even more so than your class and race, backgrounds are just kind of there for extra flavor and fun, so pick the one that best fits your character and enjoy it. As always, if you find yourself enjoying the video, like and subscribe for more rankings. There will likely be spoilers throughout, so you have been warned. And now, it's time for us to run some background checks. Number 12, Outlander. Before you nature lovers throw me out, hear me out on this one. Outlander is your very ranger and druid-coded background, someone who lives on the edge of it all. Outside the hustle and bustle of society, you thrive in the wilderness, taming and braving the many dangers of the wilds. It's a strong background from a role-playing perspective, but remains my least favorite one within the game for a variety of reasons, unfortunately, as I found it a bit disappointing on my ranger playthrough. And the fact that it's shared with two companions, although to be fair, one of which I rarely if ever use, does also put a damper on having it on my player character a bit as well. I found the inspiration gained from Outlander to just be kind of random, like they weren't sure what to do with it other than just broad survival of different encounters or really arbitrary things. And sometimes it was even difficult compared to others, which while probably a result of how I was playing, made me regret my choice just a bit during again my ranger playthrough, which should have felt very natural. The skills granted from Outlander are a mixed bag. Athletics, while not the strongest skill, is useful mostly when push comes to shove. Literally. Shoving can be a big issue for casters or ranged or support characters, so any resistance to getting shoved is a nice bonus. But other than that, if you're a melee combatant of some kind, you'll likely get this proficiency in other ways. Survival, however, is probably one of the most useless skills within Baldur's Gate 3, as it's primarily used throughout the game to find hidden chests. Hidden treasure, you might say? Well, what's useless about that? Well, when you make a survival check, it's very obvious one was made and failed, so you instantly know a treasure is nearby. Even if you fail a check, you can just use your shovel to dig around a bit and find the treasure anyways, making the skill almost entirely useless. So while thematically it may be nice, I found survival almost completely useless 99% of the time, which is a shame because it can be extremely useful to have in a party in tabletop D&D. Overall, the Outlander background, while again strong from a role-playing perspective, lacks, I think, almost any unique dialogue options, one mid and one useless skill, and difficult to understand inspiration, making it my least favorite within Baldur's Gate 3. Number 11, Folk Hero. Next up is our Knight in Shining Armor Folk Hero, your protector of the everyday mundane citizens who only serve as fodder for your glorious adventures or experience. The Folk Hero is another strong role-playing option, and honestly, I really enjoy the premise and fantasy of having it as a character's background more so than Outlander, which is the primary reason it beats it out for me. It can gain inspiration pretty easily and naturally, and is definitely one of the best from that perspective for a fully good character playthrough, with most noble and protective actions inspiring and rewarding you. It's a really satisfying way to play as well. In a world with lots of shades of gray, or just straight up evil, and being the paragon of good can be really fun. So with all that being said, why do I rank it second to last? Well, unfortunately for Folk Hero, it has the worst skill combination within the entire game for backgrounds, again only really beating Outlander because of its role-playing and natural inspiration opportunities. It gives survival, which we just reviewed as probably the most pointless within the game, and animal handling. Animal handling in a game that hands out potions of animals speaking like candy, a spell that completely removes the need for any animal handling checks in pretty much every circumstance. Again, it can be fun from a role-playing perspective to be able to handle animals a little easier, but I find I rarely don't have speak with animals up on at least one character at all times who can handle those situations much more easily. Folk Hero is also shared by two other party members with Will and Minsk. While Minsk is a very late addition to the game, it once again makes this background feel less unique and necessary to use as your player character, even if I again like it from a role-playing perspective. Overall, while I think the Folk Hero background is strong from a thematic standpoint and inspiration is quite easy to get if you play a naturally good character, the skills are just kind of folked up. Number 10, Acolyte. Now hear me out, if you act like the Acolyte, then more divine power to you, as my very first created D&D character featured this background as a cleric. Again, I think from a role-playing perspective, this one can lend itself really well to very zealous or devoted characters, and clerics, paladins, and even warlocks can be very fitting, or really any character that devotes itself to some higher power, or has at least studied them. Given the general story and premise of Baldur's Gate 3, inspiration opportunities for acolytes in relation to different deities and powers include including the Dead 3, and Shar are plentiful and very flavorful, with really any religious interaction providing the opportunity for it. However, the skill religion and the checks themselves I found are pretty far and few between, and really only helpful in a handful of cases throughout the entire game. Insight, being the other skill granted by Acolyte, is much more useful, honestly, and while relatively there's only a few checks that come into play, the ones that do are pretty critical, especially on higher difficulties where a successful insight check can avoid small issues like a horrible death. However, while insight is pretty good, I don't think that comboed with religion really complements each other or comes into play as much as you might want. And while Acolyte is very strong from a role-playing perspective, I have it a bit lower due to Shadowheart. Being an Acolyte herself, you'll probably already be getting most of the inspiration points for the Acolyte background because most players include her in the party. Being such a heavily focused character within the narrative and game, it's only natural to roll with everybody's favorite little princess, and in that way you get the full Acolyte experience regardless. Again, it's a great background, just not one quite worthy of worship in my humble opinion. Number 9, Criminal. Here's where my list got pretty difficult to pick and lock in how I rank them, as I honestly find all of them incredibly cool and useful in their own ways. And while some of you may feel the Criminal is ranked criminally low, I still have a lot of things to say that might steal your heart. Being less than honorable and profiteering, usually from the misfortune of others, in most situations will net you plenty of inspiration, and Criminal can be extremely fun role-playing background for an evil or darker character, and very fitting for it as well. A criminal rogue is just perfect, and I had a ton of fun with my Dwegar rogue who used to run his own smuggling ring. There's a lot here to embrace that archetype in fantasy, so from a role-playing perspective, it's a 10 out of 10. As I'll highlight later in this video, the social skills in Baldur's Gate 3 are by far some of the most useful within the game, giving you the gift of the gab, allowing you to garner more favor or rewards, or even completely avoid difficult encounters, and deception is no exception here. Deceiving your way through encounters or awkward situations where you're caught only trying to take a peek through someone's belongings can be very useful, and it also creates some really cool and hilarious moments throughout the game as you successfully deceive and trick others. The stealthy deceiver is a staple archetype for a reason, and it's very fun to play as one in Baldur's Gate 3. However, the stealth skill itself I've personally found less useful, mostly due to how Baldur's Gate 3 treats its stealth system in general. Don't get me wrong, stealthing and sneak attacking can be straight up broken, but like 99% of the time I stealth, it's to rely on vision cones, which any character can do pretty easily. So unless you're attempting to hide within combat, which again can be useful for sneak attacks or certain characters, it's not really a requirement to play a powerful sneaky character archetype in my opinion. But if you want to play a less than moral character, be a criminal and backstab your way to the top. Number 8, Haunted One. Did you hear that? Some dark whisper. Must have been the wind. The classic Haunted One, a very unique background in this game, is next. Only used by the Dark Urge and limited to that character, the Haunted One definitely presents one of the most unique experiences when it comes to backgrounds. Though to be fair, most of that is just due to the characterization and writing of the Dark Urge themselves. I think they handled it extremely well, though it's of course so tied to the Dark Urge that it's really hard to even differentiate the background as its own thing separate from the character. So we really can only go off the inspirations you get from it, and oh boy, are they pretty wild. Most of them just involve discriminately or indiscriminately killing and butchering people and have very poetic titles and descriptions, which I found fun. There's also a ton of them, and if you fully embrace the Dark Urge, you are just inundated with inspiration, which can be very good and fun to have at all times. There's also a few related to resisting the urge, so it's not all doom and gloom with the Haunted One, just like 90% of the time it may be. Fortunately, in addition to extreme roleplay flavor and opportunities, the Haunted One gets Intimidation, which is just an awesome social skill due to how badass you can be when successfully talking shit to people and making them back down. Intimidation checks are fairly common as well, so having proficiency in them will almost always be useful, and especially useful even on non-charisma focused characters. However, unfortunately for the Haunted One, it features Medicine for its other skill, which I honestly found one of the most worthless within the game. It only features a handful of checks that really don't make a big difference in dialogue, but may be useful as Medicine helps you craft additional potions. Being someone that only hoards and loots all ingredients and never ever brews or uses potions because I'm an idiot, it was definitely less than useful for me. Haunted One is hard to rank anyways, being so unique, and while Dark Urge remains my favorite way to play through the game, this background can remain only a dark whisper at number 8. Number 7, Soldier. Let's soldier on with our next pick, the Soldier. While I wanted to rank it number 1 because that's what Karlach lovingly calls you, it does lose out to some others for me. Again, this is where the list was extremely difficult, as honestly Soldier is an amazing background and fitting for really almost any type of character. For skills, Athletics is nice to have for shoving again, although maybe not as impactful as others, and Intimidation, as mentioned, is both hilarious and badass and extremely useful to have on any type of character. Soldiers feature some really cool inspiration opportunities as well, with things like killing 10 or more enemies in combat, or 5 enemies in a single turn, making you feel like a beast in battle. It's also very natural inspiration to get as well, with most just involving killing enemies you'd fight and kill anyways, so it's a bit similar to Haunted One, though not nearly as sadistic. However, while it's a strong theme and background and really fun on a martial character, I personally don't love overlapping backgrounds with the party for a variety of reasons, and both Lae'zel and Jaheira already feature this background themselves. Lae'zel is basically a staple of my parties, and so I feel like I get the full soldier vibe and background flavor anyways, just by the nature of having her around, much like Acolyte and Shadowheart. But again, for any martial or melee focused character that wants a bit more social punch as well, then don't battle yourselves too much and just rock on with the soldier background. Number 6, Sage. On the opposite end of the visible spectrum, we have the nerdy Sage next. While others may have been swinging swords or getting laid, you are nose deep in a dusty tome, learning the secrets of the arcane. Again, from a role-playing perspective, Sages are very flavorful and cool, being your classic wizard studying in his tower, or student of the arcane attempting to decipher its mysteries. I've seen Sage ranked really high on other lists for its ability to basically manually control inspiration. Where most backgrounds get inspiration triggers at specific points or actions without much input or knowledge or context from the player other than engaging with it, Sages are a bit unique in that you can pretty easily control when and how exactly you get inspiration. Reading any rare book within the game is likely to grant you some, so carrying a bunch in your bag and pulling them out for an emergency inspiration point is very feasible. Maybe a little cheesy, but flavorful in its own way, as a sage would have a bunch of books in their bag. Their skills, however, leave a little to be desired honestly, so that ability to control your inspiration is why they're ranked above the others so far. Arcana is just really rare to be triggered, and while in some areas can be beneficial, it's so far and in between checks that I rarely if ever noticed it. And history is a bit similar, though it can net you some nice bonus experience gains if you recognize or decipher some historical context. Both skills do provide the rare dialogue option, however, where your character can recall some facts about the arcane or context for certain events, which is a nice touch. So while they may not be the strongest skills, both are very thematic for a wise, learned character, and having at least some unique dialogue due to your proficiency is extremely cool. Sage, however, does share its background with Gale, who kind of steals the show in regards to a caster or wizard player character, but even still, it's a very inspiring background option with great potential for fun roleplaying and gameplay. Number 5, Entertainer. This may be a hot take to rank Entertainer above Sage, but I just have to further entertain the idea. Okay, this is pure bias, like really the whole list, but I had so much fun on my Entertainer Bard that I have to rank it fairly high here. Very tailored towards bards, Entertainers reward anyone wanting to dazzle a crowd or put on a show of really any kind, and has some very cool thematic inspiration to go along with it. With no entertainers or bards in the party, RIP Elfira, it's a natural fit for a player character or tab, and I think the background lends itself extremely well to strong role-playing. As far as its skills are concerned, it may not be the best combination from a power gaming perspective, but acrobatics is flavorful and has some fun checks, while also helping you resist being shoved, a great option for a swords or valor bard or swashbuckler rogue. And performance is a pretty underrated social skill in my opinion, letting you pass some cool ability checks and bypass some tough encounters within Act 3 especially. Plus, just randomly being able to play an instrument and perform using it to get a bit of extra gold is a nice touch. Entertainer to me is so intrinsically tied to bard that I don't really see playing a tab bard without picking this background, so for that I have to rank it a bit higher given my love of that playstyle within Baldur's Gate 3. But if it doesn't quite perform to your standards, you could always consider getting down and dirty with the number 4, Urchin. If you're Urchin for a good time, then this dirty beggar background may have you covered. While skill-wise it may not impress, don't underestimate how fun and how many unique interactions the Urchin can provide. Being from the mean streets, you've learned a few skills, and it's a really cool role-playing pick, as surviving and scraping by through your quick hands and wits is a really strong character theme found in many fantasy titles and books. So being able to recreate that in Baldur's Gate 3 is very fun. Thieving and helping the downtrodden in your playthrough will net you plenty of inspiration points, and while I reviewed stealth and its downsides as a skill, sleight of hand is useful for a less than honorable playthrough. There are a few sleight of hand checks that help you in your journey, but it's most useful when attempting to pickpocket unsuspecting merchants, or really anyone. For a truly sneaky playthrough, Urchin with either invisibility spells or scrolls can be extremely powerful in getting and collecting what you shouldn't, and can be fun especially in the city of Act 3. Why I rank Urchin here though is I actually found it seemed to have more unique dialogue options than other backgrounds, excluding the haunted one, at least if memory serves me correctly. Backgrounds in general rarely offer unique dialogue, but Urchin does have some which I found pretty cool. While the difference in character wasn't probably as big as it should be given your background, it's nice to have some additional flavor to help flesh out your role-playing and character. I also think it's a very fitting background in general for Tav, who comes from the mean streets of Baldur's Gate, unless you're a Gith, I guess, and knows how to navigate and survive in a world where a wrong word can catch you a fireball to the face. So while the skills can be useful and the inspiration fun, the theme of the urchin rising up in the world to fight great evil is just a really fun trope to play through. Number 3, Charlatan. Don't let me deceive you, however, because even better at getting where they shouldn't be is the ever-charming and sly Charlatan. While it's already covered as a background by Astarion, very fittingly too, manipulating and tricking your way into places and around encounters is just way too much fun within Baldur's Gate to rank it any lower. Featuring deception as a skill, smooth talking or lying your way through the game will reward a ton of inspiration and just be awesome in general. A fantastic role-playing background in my opinion. While yes, once again sleight of hand only really helps for those wanting to rid NPCs of the gold and goods weighing them down, it's just such a fun and unique way to experience the various encounters and story of Baldur's Gate 3. Spoilers, but one of my favorite unique interactions with the Charlatan I found was being able to pickpocket the genie's ring in the Act 3 circus and turning the tables on him, stealing the gold and being rewarded with the inspiration cheating the cheater. It just felt incredible to pull off, even if it was a relatively minor interaction and event in the grand scheme of the game. A sly schemer, always looking to get one up on everyone you meet, the Charlatan is an extremely fun background to role play into, fitting for a rogue or bard as well, and I ain't lying. Number 2, Noble. However, if it's a more noble purpose that drives you, then the noble background may be of interest. Raised among the social elite, you are used to a life of being pampered and privileged, a far cry from the desperate circumstances of an inconvenient little tadpole squirming in your brain. While the noble didn't provide as many unique interactions or dialogue options as I'd like, most of them just showing off your snootiness, I can't deny how useful its skills are, especially persuasion. History I've covered, and while thematic can net you some nice bonus experience, it's very flavorful to be this studied noble who's very aware of the world of Faerun and the going-ons within. But persuasion, in my humble opinion, is frankly the best skill within the entire game. It comes up a ton throughout your journey as you attempt to persuade your way through the world, and having proficiency within it with a high enough charisma means you will rarely if ever fail a persuasion roll. Some of these rolls can be devastating to fail, and it's extremely useful on any type of character or class. Even if your Tav isn't the face of the party or has charisma as a dump stat, just having this proficiency will go a long way in the many social encounters throughout the game. Most of your inspiration opportunities are pretty fun too. Acquiring a massive amount of gold, acquiring servants, being rude to those beneath you, or reaching high approvals with party members all will net you some sweet inspiration and play into the high society, conceited jackass that you were born to be. I know it's not everyone's favorite type of archetype to play, but it can be extremely gratifying to turn the tables on others at times. Though I am honestly disappointed that you can't put characters like Astarion or Will more in their place as a noble. If you need some inspiration on how to roleplay a noble, well, consider the following guide.
Your voice needs to come off as elegant as your clothing. Okay, so try this. Would you like a spot of tea? You? Yeah!
However, after all is said and done, the best background of all time is, of course, the Windows XP default background, aka Bliss. Just a timeless masterpiece. But for Baldur's Gate 3, it's easily the Guild Artisan. Okay, I actually admit, it's not my absolute favorite from a role-playing perspective. Being a craftsman in a guild of some kind is cool, but maybe a little safe or vanilla. But I can't deny just how good it is for its absolute ease in getting inspiration and its amazing combination of skills. You'll be inspired a lot just by your natural acquisition, and in some cases crafting, of rare gear. Seeing as how Baldur's Gate 3 showers you with rare items and gear, you can imagine how much inspiration this means. In addition to that, for every single trader you get max disposition on, which can be pretty easily done by gifting them some gold, even if you take it back later, you'll get another inspiration. Similar to Sage, if you really care to, this means you can pretty easily control when and how inspiration is gained, by talking to traders or going down and forging rare items in the Grim Forge, for example. So inspiration is just incredible on Guild Artisan, but its skills also make it shine like gold. Insight, as mentioned, while not as common as you might think, can be very impactful, and when combined with your persuasion proficiency, creates a character, even a non-charisma based one, that can reliably succeed at many of these social situations within the game. It's just an extremely powerful combo, providing two good social skills in a game that provides tons of opportunities for them. It also features no overlap with any existing companion, other than I think a hireling, I believe, and in my opinion results in the best background within the entire game. So get your crafting on and show off your artistry. And there you have it, every single background in Baldur's Gate 3 highly subjectively ranked. Let me know your favorite or least favorite in the comments below. Consider subscribing for more rankings. I hope you enjoyed this one, it was pretty fun to make, and that's it for me, until next time.